بالله رب العالمين وارتضينا غير دين الله دين فهو دين الحق دين الأنبياء إنه الإسلام نور وضياء هذا الدر وهذه الكلم بمديح الهادي تنتظم ضاءت بالمختار الظلم وحلا في مولده النغم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome to Finding Me today on the ITV Networks, a continuation of the discussion we were having last week. A very special guest, a very dynamic topic. We're talking Pakistan with my guest Orya Maqbool Jaan, who is an activist, a columnist, a journalist and very, very influential in terms of the ideas that he brings to the fore. Thank you very much Maqbool. Assalamu alaikum and for sharing your time and your insights with us.
Wa alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I think we've been talking last week about how we could change the society.
Yes, and you started
even in journal.
Yeah, and you said the Islamic criteria, and I just wanted to recap this for the audience, because your solution was that Islam lays a particular foundation into how you will look at the character of a person and then choose according to that, right?
Islam basically writes down certain conditionality for a person to vote, right. Because the most important thing is an opinion. Opinion is to be respected, and you have to take the opinion from the right person. That's very important.
And that's how you choose your leader.
In 1973, in Switzerland, they gave right to vote to the woman. 1973. The entire nation was developed. They said, thought that the women are not to the level of expertise in politics, in social issues, and in the society at large, that they can be given the responsibility to vote. In 1920, in journal, 1920 England, 1926 France, and 1927 and 8, I think it was in Germany, they gave, I am not discriminating women basically. Even the process of the democracy throughout the world was that previously the House of Lords was basically on the basis of the descendants. He is son of a lord, he is grandson of a lord, and he is grandson of the lord. And he is so if anybody used to sell his property, he often gave an advertisement in the newspaper that this is not that I am selling the property, the seat of the house of lord is also on sale, because if you have the property, you will automatically become the member of the House of Lords. So democracy is basically is not an ideal system in which you can ask that this type of democracy is to be followed and this type of democracy is not to be followed. Islam basically rests on the opinion of the people. Wa amruhum shura bainahum. So who is shura? So Islam says that you must have the conditionality of a person for whom you ask that you must give the vote for a people to be placed in the ruling elite. Somebody asked me once that no, there is no conditionality in the world. But today, because our world is now has grown so good, so unbiased in as far as gender is concerned, everybody is equal. I said no. Every country put a conditionality of age. If you are not 18, you can't vote. But if a person is 16 years old and he is very clever, very intelligent, he is not allowed to vote. But a person of 85 years old with Alzheimer, with senility, with Parkinsonism, he must vote, whether he can decide or not. That means the system is faulty. If you have one conditionality of age, you can have plenty of other conditionalities. So you can have a vote that he should not be convicted in any sort of crime. Right. He should not be dishonest, proven dishonest. So all this, his education level is this, then you can ask them to vote. It's just like Islam actually gave preference to certain stages. For example, first it was that the highest level of the people who were asked to give the opinion were Muhajirin and Ansar. The people who migrated with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Medina, and then the people who fought the battle of Badr, people who fought the battle of Uhud, people who fought battle of Khandaq, and then the later on other people. And why? Certainly they will say, Because they have passed through a training program of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he trained them. He trained them all the intricacies of Sharia law, and they have seen how the Sharia law is implemented. So, one thing is that you must have the qualification of the voter, and there should be a pride that I have a card of a voter. I am the person who has been asked for opinion after 4 years, after 5 years. The second thing is, then when you have a parliament, which is a higher level of opinion making, then you must have the conditionalities. Look, you are drafter of a law. You are going to write down a law which will be implemented for about 220 million people. So, what is your qualification is? Do you know Sharia?
You know, I agree with what you're saying, and I fully endorse what you're saying. But then it comes again right to the start where we started with the beginning of Pakistan. And again, my emphasis on that, that the foundation is Islam. If that is the case, then surely by now, after so many years, Islam should have really created a revivalism within Pakistan to the extent that the citizen is aware of these conditions, he is aware of what Islam demands of him as a citizen voter and how he chooses his leader. And secondly, that and having this full knowledge of Islam, you can then stand up and take people to account to say that, you know what, we will not participate in this, we do not want this, and look for alternate systems. Are there at this time in Pakistan the imagery, the decolonization of Islam? Because I mean, from my understanding, Islam in Pakistan is still very colonized. Is there this process that has begun to start the decolonizing of Islam so that there is a new framework to challenge the existing frameworks that you speak about? We know all the faults, we know the flaws, but are we making progress to bring an alternative paradigm to the fore?
You know, it's not only the problem of Pakistan. It's not only the, and it cannot be solved in isolation. It's not only the Pakistan which has to be decolonized. The Egyptian has to be decolonized. The Moroccans has to be decolonized. Even the people who have been in the Far East, who have been colonized by the Dutch, very little influence Dutch people had on them, but they are to be decolonized. Why they have to be decolonized? Because the body of Muslim Ummah is basically divided and fragmented. And the body of Muslim Ummah must have a nucleus somewhere. Some country must struggle. Some country must struggle to have a system. Why the Afghanistan's Mullah Omar's rule was destroyed? Because a place has developed in which the Sharia law, even to the very rudimentary level, was established. And the fruits were coming up. Just one fruit which I can give you as an international example. Don't talk about the justice was this, because normally if you talk to Americans, the silence of the graveyard. Means if there is a peace, there is a silence of graveyard. The peace was to the level that even for the last 150 years, right from Ahmad Shah Abdali till now, there was no such time in which such a justice and peace prevailed in that country. One example. The American nation, with the help of the international community, I have been working with UNFDAC, United Nations Fund for Drug Abuse Control, have tried their level best to curb the growth and trafficking of poppy and coca in Colombia, in Grenada, in major part of the South America, in Burma, in Thailand, in Philippines, in other parts. But they could not be succeeded with their own entire might. It's just one order of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Afghanistan.
They controlled it.
And Afghanistan was the producer of 93% of the poppy to the world. And they brought it to zero with just one stroke of pen, which means he was living in the hearts. And what was the strength of the entire Taliban in the entire Afghanistan country? It was only 45,000 people. There is a cardinal principle of political science that the ideal state is the one which has no visible presence in public. There is a place in which there's a road crossing and there is no traffic man standing over there and you are obeying the rules. There is no night patrol and you are not
So it's an
bargaining.
it's an internalized consciousness and ethics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are only 7 people in every town, only 7 people in every town which Taliban had. So they destroyed the things. Number one is, it basically any system which somebody has to implement, any system. This is my firm belief. Whether it's democracy, whether it's dictatorial system, whether it is communist system, whether it's fascist system, it has to be implemented by force. You can just give me a list of democratic countries and I'll tell you that if such a condition could not have been there, there should not have been no democracy.
No, the modern
But
state is founded on violence.
even today, how you implement democracy? You come, you raid Afghanistan, you kill people, you draft a constitution, you hold election under your supervision and say, look, if you want to live like this, live, otherwise you'll be killed. You come to Afghanistan, you kill people, you draft a constitution, you hold election under your supervision, and then you say, okay, this is the way you live, otherwise we'll fight with you. So that's the same thing. Islam basically believes that there should be a group of the people who should do the duty of ta'maruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar. And if they seize the power, they implement this institution of ta'maruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar. And then they develop the system, and then they develop a system which should be according to the wishes of the people, which is called the bayah.
Right. So I agree with you. We're going to take it from the bayah to an understanding of public trust and the public intellectual. We'll see you after the break.
بمديح الهادي تنتظم ضاءت بالمختار الظلم وحلا في مولده النغم بمديح الهادي تنتظم ضاءت بالمختار الظلم وحلا في مولده النغم.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, and welcome to the second and final segment of the second interview today with my very special guest Orya Maqbool Jaan. And before we went on to the break, Orya, you were speaking about this whole notion of how you bring amalun bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, and you recognize the qualities of the leaders, which then brings me to this question of leadership, and leadership especially in the Muslim majority countries, and how Muslims recognize leadership, because it seems that we firstly have a dearth of leadership in the Muslim majority countries. I agree we have a dearth of leadership worldwide, but that's not my interest right now. My interest is on the Muslim majority countries because we have what we claim is the guidance from Islam. Secondly, there is this rise of the public intellectual, and it is a very patriarchal public intellectual that has come into the fore. Men who are taking over the politics of Muslim majority countries, and I mean there is a certain kind of arrogance in their representation of what they say is Islam or the people that they represent. We have a major problem in dealing with these two issues. How would you then respond to that?
Look, it is basically a false statement. This leader who actually take the nation to a stage of revolution. It's always that the nations themselves come out first.
That's the agency we were speaking about earlier.
No, even the crowd. Look at French Revolution. Look at Iranian Revolution. Look at Bolshevik Revolution. Look at the Chinese Revolution. That's 4 revolutions of modern days. Let me discuss the last one, the Iranian Revolution. If another 5 years the nation could have slept and there had been no agitations in the public against Shah's rule, Khomeini could have passed away in Iraq, and you must not have been a single small knowledge of his name, what Khomeini was. He must have a small grave, not like a big tomb in Isfahan. It was a nation who woke up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a gift of leadership to them. The revolutionists said that the leadership comes on the tides of the revolution. First come the tides and then comes the leadership. Robespierre of France, he came afterwards. When Versailles Palace was surrounded by the people and the town's total population was 25,000, and one day the King Louis just saw from the window of his palace how many people there are at least 200,000 from where they have come. And then they stormed into the palace, and out of this Robespierre came up and he became the leader of the revolution.
So Pakistan's been having these tides on a regular basis.
Pakistan's not having that.
It's not having those tides?
Why?
Okay.
Every society is having. I think Muslim Ummah is having tide. And I believe that even if the revolution will come, it will come in entire Muslim Ummah. Because in some time, I think not more than 4 or 5 years, my forecast is that we will not have the boundaries like this. Because the respect of the boundary has already been broken by the international community.
Yes, there's no sovereignty anymore.
No, there's no sovereignty, even the boundaries.
Yes.
So this Daesh, they didn't believe in sovereignty. This Pasdaran Inclab of Iran, they don't believe in the boundaries. Hezbollah doesn't believe in the boundaries. They are fighting from one country to others. And even the revolutionary people, they never had the boundaries. Che Guevara was born in Bolivia. He fought in Nicaragua. He fought in Cuba, and then again he died somewhere else. Sartre went to Algeria to fight, and even to Cuba.
Yes.
So the important thing is that a time has come that all these tides of the revolution will be universally emerged, and they are emerging. They are emerging in Libya, they are emerging in Syria, they are emerging in Afghanistan, they are emerging even in Indonesia and in Malaysia.
Do you see it in Pakistan?
This Pakistan is, oh yes. So, revolutionists said there is a tipping point. For example, if you have donkey and you are putting sticks on the donkey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It will break, the last one will break the donkey's back, yes.
And even till 2000 sticks, he is standing. But at 2001, the tipping point, he just even said, oh, I'm not going to take this burden anymore.
Right.
So that tipping point, I believe the tipping point of Pakistani nation has arrived. Anything could happen at any time.
Okay.
Because, and second thing is, because the international influences are so much. And common man is thinking, what's my fate? Second thing is, the revolutionary movement never ever had an agenda when it started.
Yes.
It's basically an anarchist movement. I come out because my son has committed suicide because he was not having an employment. Another person comes out because he was imprisoned by the police. The third one comes out that his wife is ill and he doesn't have the money to pay the medical bills.
Multiple rationales.
Everybody has an anger inside. And that anger actually united and become the collective anger, the collective psyche of the people.
Yes.
Nobody knew why they are leading, why they are going in that procession. Whether it is for Islamic revolution, whether it's for communist revolution, whether it's for democracy, whether it's for anarchy, whether it's for... They just want to vent their anger.
Yes.
And that anger is against the state. Because that anger is against the government. That anger is against the suppression. So on these anger things, on this psyche, a person comes out of that crowd, which will have an appeal, which will have a magnetic personality, which will have a charismatic personality, and that will lead to the nation.
Yes, I see your point, but is the conditions ripe in Pakistan for the creation of a magnetic personality, a personality who can then bring the shift? Because you can have populist leaders, you can have demagogues who come in, who say the right things, who appeal to the psyche of the nation, but who don't bring anything better. What we need in the Muslim Ummah is for somebody to bring us something better, to lead in a better way.
It only comes when people have exploited all the avenues of governance. Pakistan has exploited all the avenues of colonialism. We had a very, very staunch Muslim autocratic dictator Ziaul Haq.
Yes.
We had a very liberal democrat, secular Musharraf.
Yeah.
We had a very popular, charismatic Zulfikar Ali Bhutto.
And you had a female.
We had first female prime minister.
Yes.
We had a very, very obedient and which you can say routine type of guy like Nawaz Sharif, when the falling even Islam and Western, a combination of the both. We have exploited all the avenues. And we don't see in future what is coming up, because nobody have the faith in Bilawal, nobody has the faith in Hamza and Maryam, nobody has the faith. Imran Khan does not have any son or any person who is going to be the heir of his throne. No, nobody is. So people are basically in a mood, and mood is always, there's always a trigger. Anything can happen, and its movements are always like snowball effect. If one snowball is thrown, and it will have an effect, things will roll on. And it could happen anywhere, like Arab Spring. Arab Spring was that, you look, the leadership came in the shape of Morsi in Egypt. But the surrounding areas, they didn't want to have the leadership. So I believe in that any organization which will have a cross country or leadership, which will have a leadership beyond the boundaries of the nation state, they will certainly change this world.
And in changing the world, I think that's what the Muslim majority citizens of these countries are looking forward to, a change for something new, because they feel it's their right to choose the kind of government they want, the leaders that they want, without any external interference, without a compromise of their sovereignty. Do you think, as a final comment, as a parting comment, that the Muslims of the world are mature enough to claim this for themselves?
Muslim nations are mature enough, but not the Muslim leadership. Normally say where the Muslim nation is. They are fragmented, they are Arabs, they are Malaysians, they are Indonesians, where the Muslim nation. But you just give me one example. If the person is born in Egypt, person is born in Malaysia, person is born in Bangladesh, but he is fighting for the independence of Afghanistan in Afghanistan. He is fighting in Bosnia, he is fighting in Chechnya, he is fighting in Egypt. If the Che Guevara is respected, if the person who has written the War of the Flea and he fought with the Vietnamese people in Afghanistan, he is to be saluted, why not these people are to be saluted? There is a general consensus of the fundamental human rights that any nation which has been taken over by any neighbor country or international community or international power, they have all the right to fight against usurpation of powers and against occupation. Okay? The Afghan people are fighting. But you call them fighters, freedom fighters. You call them terrorists.
Yes, it's who controls the language and the definition.
You've changed the name of the fight, freedom fighters. So thing is that nation is matured. It's only to change the leadership. It only you have to change the thrones from Saudi Arabia to Morocco and from Egypt to Malaysia, and the things will be changed.
The political elite definitely has to go. We're at the end, Orya, and I think you've brought a very powerful discussion to the fore about Pakistan. As a final comment, I would like you to leave us with this vision. What is your vision for Pakistan?
My vision is basically the vision in which our forefathers actually fought for. They were happily living in their countryside. Everybody was very happy. The only thing was that they were being suppressed and they were not allowed to practice their faith independently. Even they were allowed, but the other thing was they wanted to have a place in which they can implement the Sharia law, for which the Qaeda-Azam said, and the world of the Qaeda-Azam. There are people who are creating mischief. It is said on in January 1948 that we will abandon Sharia law. The Sharia law is as applicable today as it was 1300 years ago. And that was basically my vision. That is the vision of everybody who follow Islam. And my responsibility is just to say what I have and what I have received from my forefathers and what I have received in the shape of Quran and Sunnah and other teachings. This is my responsibility. I believe that the change is not my responsibility. Change is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala certainly sees our niyyah, our intentions. And I think the intentions of the Muslim Ummah is very right and very ripe also.
Okay, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. So hopefully that the start has begun from within ourselves. And for me, the fondest memories of Pakistan is with the Sabri brothers, and I hope that inshallah that we bring back the liveliness, the creativity, the potential, the power of the Pakistani people into the fore again, rather than always looking at the doom and gloom picture. But thank you for sharing your time with us. Fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
قسما بالله رب العالمين ما ارتضينا غير دين الله دين فهو دين الحق دين الأنبياء إنه الإسلام نور وضياء هذا الدر وهذه الكلم بمديح الهادي تنطق